Almost only count. Rawr!
When did we all get this dumb?
Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about tax.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef.
Come on, man. Use your brain.
The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. New day, new podcast. We are here. It is new day and a new president. What are you thinking about it? How are you guys feeling? This is the chef of the Why I'm Angry podcast, Chef Aaron, and we are here in the Man Cave Freestyle Studio in lovely Ohio, or freezing cold Ohio. I think it was about 2 degrees this morning when I woke up. They're saying wind chill, which I haven't gone out to even feel the wind, is negatives. Negative. So today we're going to get into a few things. We're going to give the reaction to the actual inauguration, full reaction. I've kind of poured over some things I've rewatched the inauguration videos, and I kind of have the notes and things that I took from last night's inaugural balls and the parade and all of that, which included signing executive orders in a historic way. And we're going to have some new things. We've got some time that we've got to dole out for our ads and things of that nature. And so we're continuing on the evolution of our podcast. And so this is part of it. So with that being said, we're going to get into our first 90-second commercial break. I appreciate you guys. All right, we're coming back from break here. The big thing for this segment is we're going to kind of just go over the reaction. So I kind of gave a little bit of reaction last night around midnight. Finally got all of the coverage kind of seen and went over everything. And I said, even last night, I said the feeling, I don't remember 100% about the Biden inauguration because I wasn't excited about it, and I understand that, like, I'm not. It's just as historic. It's just it's a president being inaugurated, and every time we do that, we should be going into it with a kind of excitement, an unknowing. But I said I felt like that the Biden inauguration was somber. I didn't want to go as far as funeral-esque, but it was somber, like, like you were observing something, I guess. And I think that as we go into things, or as we see things like that, you kind of there wasn't energy, and I felt like last night there was plenty of energy. It was still presidential. It was still official and all of that, but it was much more. There was much more energy involved in the actual ceremony. It felt like there was a positive energy, a positive, and maybe that's just honestly, maybe that's just me being, more excited about this president than Biden. And that's not to say that I'm, let's Trump is everything. Trump's the savior. You know, Trump can usher in just as much biblical prophecy and end times movement as anyone else. I mean, we could go. A lot of the end times prophecies are delving into the currency and social awareness of the age, and I don't think. I don't know that he pushes back on that as much as people think. Now, he has pushed back a little bit on the balance of power and things of that nature, and we'll kind of get into that. So, but I just wanted to kind of give more of an overall highlights, things that I observed. And so, just in the beginning, just looking over some of the talking heads and what they're saying, as some of the left end side talking heads have said that oh, there was a missed kiss, and there were a cappella from Carrie Underwood, which I commend her like greatly for being able to like just pull out an a cappella version of you know God Bless America, or I can't even remember which song she sang, but or America the Beautiful, and just being able to do it an a cappella version off the cuff is tough to do, because you're preparing for certain cues from the song to remind you of certain lyrics, or certain cues to continue keep your tempo going, and to be able to do it all yourself, that's huge. So I didn't see a lot of negative, and Trump, was very Trump. He came out and he spoke about all his wins. He spoke about he's a very transactional person. He wants to, in his interaction with people, he wants to win the transaction. And so that makes him abrasive, that makes him brash, that makes him overconfident to some, and overzealous, or pompous to some. And so I can see where, like, him coming out and telling his stats, that we won this, this was a victory speech, this was a victory run, this was he is being victorious. And honestly, I think we need to show that sometimes a little more in our president. I mean, our president needs to be a world leader, and he needs to be able to wield his power and be able to walk in. His reputation should precede him. He's president. He has as much or more power than anyone in the world. And so, without being a dictator, with wielding the country, and the country's, for one, the one thing that I think that I didn't think about Trump, that I didn't think about a president wielding, is the power of our purchasing. As a country, we are a consumer country. We consume as many goods and services as countries like China, who have 1 billion people. we have somewhere around 325, 350 million people, which was funny that Trump said something about that we don't even know how many people we've got because of the growing issue at the border and stuff like that, how many people have come in and things of that nature. So, but we have that power, and he talked a lot about wielding that power of consumerism. TikTok was turned off on Saturday night and turned back on Sunday, and he talked about even using the world, his approval as kind of a tool to become, to set up a joint deal with TikTok, whether it's, and he didn't seem, and I don't think he knows exactly how that would work, because I don't think anyone knows exactly how that would work. But he's talking about, he's talking personally some about the U.S. owning 50% of TikTok, because if he doesn't approve TikTok, then it's not worth anything, which is true and not true. It's true partially because the U.S. is like I said, the one of the largest consumer countries in the world, because we're a developed nation. We don't have a group or a part of society that is developing. Other than you would joke that maybe parts of Montana are not as developed or something like that, or something like that. But the U.S. as a whole are is fairly technologically developed. I mean, we've got internet pretty much everywhere. We have access to um, the modern technologies, the plumbings and stuff like that, and power, electricity, and things. There aren't bush people all living off the grid, because there's no grid there. It's If you're living off the grid, you have taken yourself off the grid, or you're living in an area that the grid is not as strong there, maybe. But it's not that there isn't a grid. There are parts of Australia that you live in the bush and there's no grid. There are parts of Africa and China even that those people are still in development. There is, and not as people, but as in modern society. They have a digital currency in China, but they can't have a complete digital currency, because there are people who live in an area that don't have internet like that. Maybe they have some cell service, or maybe they have some phone service, or some ties to modern society, but they don't have the full gambit of modern equipment. So that's kind of where we're going, is that he's deciding whether or not, he's trying to figure out how to monetize the U.S. people. And as good as bad as that sounds, it's a different way of thinking about the country, and it honestly, it kind of harkens back to the way that we used to do things. I mean, it's not exactly the same. It is different, very different, because we used to think of us of our people as a philanthropic group, as a power of good, and he's using our country as a power for to bring in economic stability to our people, to bring in physical stability, and with the wall stuff. And next segment we'll talk about all of the executive orders that he signed. But it was just it was just an interesting time for the inauguration. During the parade, he stopped at the in the Capitol to sign a few executive orders on stage, and that was I thought that was kind of just interesting. They announced all the executive orders, they signed it, people cheered. He threw pens in the crowd. It was just energized, like anything that he does seems to be. But it just had energy. But then the one thing that I kept having my wife, we were trying to get the 2-year-old down, we were trying to get some dinner, things of that nature. And this was a historic event. I mean, we didn't watch the national championship. I ended up watching the highlights of the national championship because I watched this. Because this seemed like it was more important to see than to just, read the highlights later. Plus, Notre Dame and that other team, they're both rivals to my team. They're both they're I was having troubles figuring out who I even wanted to sit down and watch and root for. So glad the money comes back to the Big Ten. Glad that as the Big Ten can celebrate the championship. Um, Here starts another year of hearing about national championships for me. But anyhow, the night was just energetic and things. And so we just, we stopped it often and just sat there and just, I even told my wife as he's signing these executive orders, I'm like, no one's done this. This wasn't something that Biden actually showed you. And, you know, it just was exciting. And I think that we're gonna, he harkened back to a golden age of the US. And I think even some of the speeches from other people, went back to that. We had that the Congressional Medal of Honor winner came up in the commander in chief ball and talked about, you know, that, he started out with his warriors have missed him. And he talked kind of extensively about how these as American soldiers, you are the embodiment, the ambassador of the American fighting spirit. And I think that is a really neat, a really good way to, just be proud, have pride in the fact that, you are, if you're a soldier now, you are the current fighting spirit. And that spirit of, World War champions, liberators of our country in the in 1777, 1778, that those people fought for something that was beyond themselves. And I think that as we embrace a different mindset of trying to make America great again and things of that nature, that we realize that there is pride to living here. And whether that's a privilege that we don't deserve because we didn't do anything to be here or not, that pride should be coming up, should be welling up inside you. And so just a super feeling of pride as we watched it, a feeling of historical measure, and that. So coming up here on another break, we'll try to do a little bit better. I forgot to do the countdown on it. Remember to follow, like, and share if you want to help us out. And I put the link messages in our messages in our comments. So if you want to go to that link, it's $2 a month. and you'll get things like this as special events. I'm gonna start doing a morning podcast, like 15-minute morning startup, um, in the mornings and stuff like that. So obviously, 3 or 4 times a week at least, and so that will go on that, and otherwise you won't get to see those. But just think about helping support that way, and if you can't support financially, we are so appreciative of follows, likes, and shares, and we really appreciate that. All right, here we are back after the break here. Let me hit a few buttons, twist a few knobs, hit a few more of these sliders, and get this back in order. So the one thing I did, I guess, say or went through that there was, thank you, there was a lot of executive orders. So there were executive orders flying on both sides all day, really. And the one thing you'll hear about from Trump, or you'll hear if you saw, there you go, saw the speeches at the inaugural ball or during the parade, that Biden pardoned everybody, and a lot of the pardons didn't come until, like, literally they didn't drop until the last second. And so he wanted to comment on that ahead of time, or during the inaugural speech, and they said, no, this is a time for unity. And I think that's one of the differences between last time and this time, is that maybe he has a little better advisory panel around him. Just even with, guys, Vice President JD Vance, I think he's got a voice, and I think he's got an ability to use that voice. He's one of those guys that he's not afraid to say what he thinks. And I think he's not afraid also to just get out, just to give his opinion on how things are, and how that he sees things. And I even said to my wife, I said, I cannot believe that we got JD Vance as a vice president. And she said, well, what is, what can he do? He's vice president. What does the vice president do anymore? Like, what does the vice president do? We can't, he does, they just don't seem to have that much power. And I think she's right in one, is that they don't wield as much executive power, like the president does, or what you would see as outright power. but I think they do hold a power that we just don't see in the background. I think they run Congress, a lot more than you would think. I think they're on both sides, kind of just pushing back and forth. I think that they also, obviously they break the tie or whatever, and a lot of times the president will give the vice president a platform to work on, and things of that nature, and all of that. But I think also things that we don't think about that the vice president does. I just don't think we see all of the advisory side of what the vice president. And I think that JD Vance and President Trump have built a kind of a relationship, that he has an advisory spot where I don't think Pence and him got 100% along. I don't think it was his pick. I think it was the party's pick. They were not excited about him being the nomination at that time, and I think that they were kind of surprised, and they were trying to bring in an establishment pick because they were worried that the establishment wouldn't vote. The diehard Republicans that maybe wanted more conservatism, maybe wanted a stronger Republican history in their nomination, that maybe they wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. And so Pence was the nomination. Pence was the solid, evangelical, he was a solid Christian leader that could come in and do something. So that, I think, is the difference to this time also, is that Trump's got a following, but or got a group around him that have some knowledge, that are more Trumpian people. I think before that it was a lot of Republican leaders around him, and this time, this election was more that Trump took power. He took control of his destiny and said, "We're going to do this my way. We're not going to get it stolen from us." They talked about a lot of it being too big to rig, which I feel like is a subtle slight, but I think that we're seeing that he did it his way, and his way is to maybe not always be the smartest person in the room, but because he's smart enough to put the smartest people in the room, is the reason that he's not the smartest person in the room. And you can argue that being smart enough to surround yourself with the other intelligent people, or more intelligent people than you are, to make yourself the least intelligent person in the room, is pretty intelligent. So executive orders. We're talking about executive orders. Day one executive orders signed by Donald Trump. Some of these were signed as of they finished off about 11 p.m. He kicked everyone out of the Oval Office, and that was the crazy thing too, is you want to get into the how it felt, how the energy was in the room, or in during this. He was open and transparent to talk in the Oval Office, just a conversation while he signed executive orders. And it wasn't softball questions like, well, what is your first meal going to be in the White House? What have you missed about being in the White House? There were some of those kind of questions and things of that nature. But one person actually, like, one person kicked back a question. They talked about he signed an executive order pardoning all or staying sentencing of all January 6th rioters. And somebody asked him, I mean, a good question, solid question. What we're going to pardon all those people. What about those people who had who were involved in assaults with officers, with federal agents, with all of that? And he said, "Look, you've destroyed their lives. You guys have effectively put them in jail. They've been in jail. They've been in prison. They've been wherever for years now. For 4 years, 2 to 4 years, most of them. You've already effectively destroyed their lives for assaults. We've done less for murder. I've seen he said I've seen less for murderers, and these people were protesting for their government. They were honestly, they were fulfilling their civic duty in the Constitution to protest if your government no longer fulfills its duties, no longer allows you to feel secure that it is running under the constitutional controls. And a lot of people felt like it was not running under the constitutional controls. They did not, raise up arms against the government, but they did go and protest in a way that got the government's attention. Maybe not. I wasn't there. I can't. I mean, Trump alluded to it again last night that, there is evidence of some actors, some bad faith actors in that may have accelerated things. There is evidence that the FBI was involved in it. There is evidence that Antifa was part of it. There is there's also the side of there were 400 members of the National Guard that were ready and waiting, that the president made available for that night. And, Speaker Pelosi said they didn't need it. Which if you had any any brain, any way to say anything about what if you could read the room, which I think is an issue with a lot of people anymore these days, and we even saw that with with I guess a gesture from Elon Musk. But if you could read the room and be you would know that at January 6th, 2016, people were upset. They didn't believe, or 2020, sorry. They didn't believe that their government was of the people, by the people, for the people. They believed that their government was stolen. The vote was their voice had been stolen. And so I think that's where that's where we get that we have to be kind of cognizant of that there has been some hurt on both sides. And I think that's why he didn't put the stuff about Biden, and some things like that. You'll hear some things, he'll be brash, but as a country, we need to come together, and I think Martin Luther King Day was a great day to do it because the man preached about his four children being able to one day be judged on their content of their character as opposed to the color of their skin. And you know I think that part of that message needed to be embodied yesterday. And I think that with that being, the unifying factor, Martin Luther King wanted the country to be unified, and unified in the fact that no matter what was going on, we're a country, almost like brothers and sisters. You can beat your you can disagree with your brother or sister, sibling, or whatever. You should be able to fight it out about whatever dumb thing that you're fighting about, and then know that they've got your back if someone else says something stupid about you. That if you if someone were to come at you and say, they could say that you were stupid, and if a bully or somebody else said you were stupid, they would fight them over it. And you would say, well, you just said it yourself. That doesn't matter. I'm allowed. I'm the brother. I'm the sister. It's like, if my brother, if someone came against my brother, I, I'd fight him. And the same thing, at the same point, my brother could say probably something. I don't know what he could say, but he could say something. And at that point, I'd want to fight him. And that's just siblings. That's just the way when you pledge your allegiance to something, that's the way you feel. And I feel like we've gotten away from that over the last decade, that we don't pledge our allegiance to our country to fight for it when it's being, downgraded or denigrated by other people or by other countries. And that, we're not here to fight for our country as we would, you know, as we would fight for our brothers and sisters. And so I think that, as we're going through things, as life is the way it is, we we need to realize we need to re-up our pledge to the country, and we need to, you know we need to expect certain things, and at the same time we need to be more strong in our resolve for the country. So that being said, let's get into these actual um, executive orders and kind of go through them. Some of them I'll just fly through. Some of them I'll kind of talk about why and what. But yeah, some of them are just kind of more the just ceremonial type. Like the restoring names that honor Americans' greatness. Um, and that's just restoring the names of the honoring part of things. Different roads that were taken away. Their name because we couldn't honor that person, or if Thomas Jefferson is taken off the bill because he had slaves or something like that. You know, these were great leaders, and because they followed the signs of the time, you know, they are being punished or being they're dead. But we do need to seek and resolve what is great about our history, and we need to honor that history. And so they are the one big one. They're designating cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations, and especially designating global terrorists. So they're just kind of they're creating a level of terrorism, and um, they are making sure that we can designate the right kind of authority against some of these people. So we're just we're signing executive orders to designate, to set that up, which is a lot of, stop it. I said go over there. And so, it's just a move to designate, to get the power that we need to actually fight this war. For far too long, we fought against cartels with like they were just a people like a gang or something, and we didn't fight them like they were killing our people. Like they were one of the largest threats to our people in this country. And so I think that this is a good step. This is a good move. This is a power play. And so I think that this is one of those things that you'll look back and say, okay, we gave the right forces the right power, and we gave the right we moved these people into a much more severe um spot. So, reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service. This is just extending out the repeal of the affirmative action items just a few years ago. This is just reforming it to the best person available gets the job. Now, that's not to say that it's not still all in who you know. But it's at least not based on DE and I. It's not based on the color of your skin and how many disabled people or how many ethnic varieties we can have at our company. It's based on, are you the best candidate? And I think in some aspects, when they put affirmative action into place, it was supposed to be the best candidate. But if you had two good candidates that were equally strong, that you would be incentivized to pick the candidate that was a minority. And that's fine and all. But, it became the fact that you were incentivized to pick the minority. And as a company, you could take the hit in quality to save the money, to get that tax break or that incentive. So I think, and it became a weapon against people. The next one is ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. So just kind of that extension on that is just ending just the wasteful side of things, that because we're doing DE and I, we're going to choose this company, and because of that, we're just gonna spend our money on that instead. So, um, defending women from gender ideology extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Um, I mean, that's just some of that is taking out some of the gender issues in the military. Some of it is just making sure that we that we're fair on things. You know, we've said it a bunch of times. Having a a trans person in sports, in women's sports, a man, biological man playing women's sports, even if they've transitioned, it's still just not fair. If there were some way to make it a fair competition, I don't know that I would still, I still wouldn't believe in it. I'm still not gonna follow it as a Christian. That's just against the beliefs of God's creation. But at the same point, then you could make a case. But in no case have we found that it's a fair competition. So, establishing and implementing the president's Department of Government Efficiency. He's just creating the establishment of Doge, that Elon Musk, Ramaswamy set up, that they're going to go through. And I guess, and he even explained that, they asked if he was going to get Elon Musk was going to get an office in the West Wing, and he said he's going to get, not sure if it's going to be in the West Wing, but he's going to get an office for about 20 people to kind of just pour over things. See where we're, if we're spending $80 on toilet lids, and we can spend 20. There you go. We're gonna do some of that stuff. Not that we want to, as a country, become the Walmart, but we want to make sure that we're not getting taken advantage of as a government. So that so that honestly, part of that's so that we can put the money back in people's hands. Whether it's that we can have the money for your retirement, Social Security, or that we can have the money to lower taxes and still provide a level of security. And I think that's where his focus has been great, is that he's focused on, we're going to provide a level of security. That our mission is to secure the government. So, America First policy directive to the Secretary of State, protecting the United States from foreign terrorists and other national security and public safety threats is another one, and that one goes towards immigration. So, he talked a lot about the immigration stuff, about making sure that we secure the borders, make sure that we are setting up that a natural born citizen is born here, and that you're a citizen, and that you're born here of two citizen parents, or you're born here legally to become a natural born citizen. He talked a lot about unleashing Alaska's extraordinary resource potential, or the black gold beneath our feet. And then protecting the people against invasion is one he signed. This one reverses that and the Alaska resources both reverse executive orders from the Biden administration. And basically, it just revokes 4 executive orders signed by Biden that will help help the border crisis. They'll be able to build the wall if they see fit, or be able to deport people more immediately. If you're coming in illegally, there's you can fill out your paperwork, but you shouldn't have the process to just live here. You should be put on the other side of the border. And I know there's extenuating circumstances, and we can go through those, and we can talk about that. But if our law is that you're coming in illegally, and we've talked about this before, can the U.S. take in everybody? Maybe, but there should be some sort of process to being able to take those people in. And they shouldn't be just getting paid to just leave their country. They shouldn't be dumped on us because they're, and this may or may not be this, but because they're from, they're a jailer of another country, because they're a criminal from another country, or they're unable to control or to keep that person in line, whether they're in the psychiatric issues or things like that. So we're coming up against another break. Again, follow, like, and share us. This is the Why I'm Angry podcast here in the Freestyle Man Cave studio. We're published and produced by Freestyle Creative Group, and just wanted to to get that out and get you guys, if you want to support us, help us out. Thanks a lot, and we're going to get into this next 90-second set. We're back up on here. Okay. All right, we're coming back here. So just to continue on, right now we're talking about the executive orders that were signed. There were a lot of them, and it was done in a historical fashion where he just, he was signing them. He was talking about things going on, and we're just going to jump right back into it. Reevaluating and realigning the United States foreign aid. Basically, he's going through Doge. He's going through all of that, making sure that we're spending our money in the right spots, that we're not getting, I said, he's transactional. He wants to make sure we're not getting ripped off at every turn, that we're not getting taken advantage of. And he even mentioned, kind of half jokingly, that there are about 2 or 3 countries that are not making money off of us, and he's not going to mention them because he doesn't want them to reestablish a better deal with us. But he's going to go after those countries that are making, obscene amounts off of us, that are making more money than they should be, or that aren't paying their fair share. And he talked about, China pretty extensively. The one thing that he talked about that was surprising was the Panama Canal, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But he talked about, China right now is paying so little on the World Health Organization, that they they pay, like $39 billion or something like that, and we we pay, $500 billion to them. And why is that? When they have a billion plus or just shy of a billion, depending on what census you go with. And we have like 350,000. We have a third of their population, or 350 million. We have about a third of their population, and we pay, 100, 10 times, 15 times more than they do. And it's not because we have the money. I mean, look, we owe China, trillions of dollars in bills, in just payments. So, that's one of those deals where it's just like, we don't think about this daily, but this is what we're going to start thinking about. So, declaring a national energy emergency. This was a big one because it's going to open up the pipelines, open up a lot of things that Biden has closed down. We have more natural gas in our country than, 3 Iraqs have of oil and gas. And, we as a country, if we were an intelligent group, we would create as much natural gas as we can and send it overseas. We could be the Iraq, the Saudi Arabia of natural gas, and it's a stable, well established heating supply or cooling or fuel supply that can be used for all kinds of things. And that's the one thing, like, that they're saying about the fight in the Ukraine war is that Ukraine is a hub for natural gas, and that's why they've had so many issues in the EU and things of that nature, because they're on that pipeline. And so they've shut down all the natural gas production coming through. And so the EU last winter froze, and we're sitting here on a supply that no one could imagine. And Biden's closing it down and making it illegal to have gas stoves and stuff like that. It's stupid. It's honestly, it's gaslighting. It's telling us that, it's not legal, it's not this, it's not that. It's not a good source, that we don't have enough of it, we're running out. No, we're not. Like, when I first heard him saying, my father-in-law said something about it, and I'm like, no, we're not running out of natural gas. I mean, but that's what they're telling the people, that the pipeline can't give you enough, and we're not getting. That's because we've put a bunch of environmental regulations against being able to do these things. And what's sad is, as a country, we're the most responsible country in our environmental regulations. Like, so why shouldn't we be creating the energy that the rest of the world uses? If we created the energy that the rest of the world uses, do you think that we're not more environmentally friendly and more environmentally conscious than Saudi Arabia, than Qatar, than all of these countries that are, than Venezuela? And that was one of the questions he actually got while he was signing, is that I think there was one that was said that the energy independence, I think, is where when he got that question, is, what is our relationship with Venezuela going to be? He goes, I don't know that we have to have a relationship with Venezuela. He goes, we don't have to buy oil from them anymore. And they're like, well, we buy so much. He goes, but the problem is when we're buying, and this isn't, he didn't explain all of this. He just, because he didn't have that much time, he just said, we don't have to buy from them. And I don't think people understood that we don't have to buy from them means we don't have to kowtow to a dictatorship. Venezuela is a terrible human rights dictator. Iran is terrible at human rights. Saudi Arabia is terrible with human rights. And those are the people who control the oil supply. And they wanted to talk about BRICS. Well, or what are we gonna do? We're gonna sanction BRICS. What's that gonna do for us? And is that gonna raise our prices? How's that gonna keep stability? And he said, listen, these countries are adversarial to the U.S. So what are we gonna do? We're going to curtail. We're going to stop. We're going to slow down anyone who's adversarial to the U.S. That is part of national security. These people aren't just adversarial to the U.S. They want the U.S. to die. They want to kill our people. And so that's where we need to realize that, why are we giving these people billions and in some cases trillions of dollars? So restore the death penalty to protect and protecting public safety. And this is just restoring the rule of law that your punishment is going to fit the crime. And that it's, to commit a crime, which I think we've lost, is unlawful and is against the will of the people. And that if you commit a crime, then you should be punished. And that if you know that the punishment is great, there's less shot you're going to, or less reason for you to commit the crime. There's less upside. If I rob a bank and I think 5 years in jail, if I can steal $10 million, 5 years is worth $10 million. And I'm not saying that this is the truth. This is just hypothetical. But, if I could steal 10 million and only spend 5 years in jail, but get that $10 million, why wouldn't you? Or why, if that's your value system, then you're going to commit that crime. And so that's where we're at with, restoring and the protection of public safety. We're just making sure that the murderers, the people who kill multiple people, who do it on purpose, know that their consequences are grave. We're going to secure our borders. We talked about that, protecting the meaning of the value of American citizenship, and I think that comes back to, again, making sure that immigrants coming in understand that what they're supposed to be doing if they come in here, how to do it legally. Realigning United States refugee admission program. And that's again an immigration thing. We can loosen the immigration policies to accept more people, making it enticing it to be more legal to get in, while also making the penalty for coming in illegally more stringent. Not everybody is this super hardworking, just great person that comes in. We've seen a few nationalized news setups about people who have come in illegally and things of that nature. And in that we've got issues, but a lot of people are hardworking, but not everybody. And we need to make sure that the non-hardworking people get punished, and the hardworking people that come in, if they want to be here, they need to follow the rules. You know, they're still doing something illegal to get here if they're not, if they're not coming in legally, if they're sneaking in. So, unleashing Americans' energy, clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States. So this also runs on border security, or is about border security. There were a total of 78 Biden executive orders, like the Unleashing American Energy, that it revokes 12, revokes a lot, some of them revoke other orders and stuff like that. So that all of these are kind of just, some of them are just rolling back. Some of them are extending out and getting things done. Some of them are just rectifying the ship. It's we're going to hold former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive government materials. We're going to restore accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce. Basically, that's a lot of, lobbying, bribery, making sure that the government isn't unfairly getting an advantage, or government officials aren't unfairly getting an advantage. And it's also making sure that, we're just, that we're holding people accountable, that there's no one is above the law. Obviously we learned that in the last 4 years that Trump was not above the law. That he had to come to terms with things. But we did also learn that certain people were above the law, because Hillary had done the same things that Trump did the 4 years before that, and nothing came of it. So we learned that we're a country of interpretation of the law, not of laws. And we're seeing that with the institution of marijuana in states being legal, but it's not federally legal. That we're a country of the interpretation or the institution of laws, not the actual law itself. Because a lot of times in the country, if we just executed the laws we have, that we'd be in a much safer, much more advantageous place. He's establishing tariffs, which people are like, oh, if there's a tariff, I saw a meme from somebody that is still followed on my Facebook page for now, that said, people don't understand that these tariffs aren't paid by the company, they're paid by the people who buy the products. Well, yeah, duh. What is a tariff? A tariff is an excise tax for an item that another country produces to bring into our country to sell. So we want the Chinese product, or whatever product, to be more expensive than the American product, or to be equally as expensive as the American product, because we want the opportunity for you to buy the American product. I mean, it's crazy to think that we should protect our American businesses. We should also incentivize American businesses to be American, to build their products in America, so that we employ Americans. I mean, you would think the common sense part of that is just is assumed, but you know what happens when you assume. Yeah. So, yeah, we're making sure that goods and services are made here in the U.S. We're withdrawing from the United States from the World Health Organization. Which is great. Honestly, he talked about being part of the World Health Organization. Still, but we need a better deal. We're paying $500 billion to the World Health Organization. It is great to, it is advantageous to have an organization that is set up to, kind of help you organize things in time of crisis for pandemics and things. But at that same point, the World Health Organization, don't get me wrong, is extremely liberal, extremely vehemently liberal. I can't think of a good word to be like. It's militantly liberal. And so, when you didn't follow it, it wanted the power to shut you down, and not just shut you down, but shut you down for good. If you're going to question our authority, and I think that that's a thing that the government, the country has to really, think about, really, decide is allowing an organization to come in and then to try to give them the power that they need to establish laws or to establish advise on us. Is that really something that we need, or do we have the resources here to do all of that? So, the application for protecting Americans from foreign adversaries controlling applications, Controlled Applications Act to TikTok. There's and he mentioned this pretty flippantly. He mentioned that regulating, that being upset about TikTok is probably silly, because the Chinese government, the interference in TikTok, the ability to glean information off of TikTok, is probably just as, or just as big as it. They make all these cell phones, and you don't think they can put a reader chip on the cell phones, that they can put a second processor, a whatever, they, an app in the cell phone that, just comes with the hardware, comes with the software, and things of that nature, that can't read your information or listen to your conversations or anything like that. If you're buying a Chinese company cell phone, that could be just as bad, or as, invasive, as if you were buying, or you're doing TikToks. And what was funny is his example was, where I don't know why they need a bunch of kids' information. It's like it goes beyond that a little bit, but again, and he's talking about being transactional with them, making sure that the deal is the best for us, or that we're making money off of the deal. So we're at initial rescission of harmful executive orders and actions. It just revoked 64 or 67 executive orders, just kind of a general revision, instead of signing 67 executive orders to rescind all of them. Then restoring freedom of speech, the First Amendment, ending the weaponization of federal government, and then putting America first in international environment and agreements. And I think that's what we've been talking about with him being very transactional, making sure that America is getting the best deal, that we're not just doing deals because we're America and we're out here to help everyone else out. We can help everyone else out, but we also want to make sure that for our people, that we're getting a good deal, and that we want to talk about how the government can give us things. This is stability. This is the security that the government can give us. But just the weaponization, ending weaponization of the government. I mean, the last 4 years, if you're not afraid of the government, or you're not leery of the government, I mean, there has never been a time where they went after a person and his family as much as they've gone after, President Trump. And they didn't go after, Pence. They went after Trump because he did things that other presidents didn't do. Maybe he stepped across the lines of decorum, and just he stepped across the lines of the normal political status quo. But we were getting to the point where we needed to, because the normal political status quo wasn't getting us anywhere but non-balanced budgets and trillions of dollars in debt as a country. And with the things that they were doing for us, social security, and things of that nature, those things are going down. Those things are being lost. They're not funded properly, and the military is not funded properly, or not followed well. That they just not supported. And so the things that they're supposed to be doing, they're not doing. But instead, we're increasing um, congressional salaries. We're increasing the amount of vacation times that they get. Where we're, you know, bringing, one of the bills he signed was to bring the federal government home, or back to the office, to take them on. That no longer can you sign in from work, or sign in to work and work a second job. That you need to come back to the office. That's a big thing that's been happening in the world these days, is that you could have 3 or 4 online jobs. Sign in, do nothing, get paid, have the job, go to another job at the same time. You're double dipping on your jobs, and that's fine and all. But if a company is paying you to work, they should get some work out of you. And if you can do 2 jobs at once, fine, whatever. But if you're cheating the system, doing multiple, just getting paychecks, then that's where they're saying, get back to the office. So that's kind of the list that's here. He also, and I didn't see on this one, I might have missed it as I was reading through, the withdrawal of the Paris Climate Accords. We're going to withdraw from that. And then we also wrote a letter to the EU, or the United Nations, also saying that we're withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords. That it's a terrible deal. It's an environmental disaster. It's killing our country environmentally, because it's just, we're just not using any resources from us. We're buying, like, it's the opposite of helping the planet. I'm sure it started out as something that we could help the planet, but it is definitely not. It is definitely one of those things that, as we're getting into it, as we're since we've gotten into it, we're relying on other countries to kind of give us the energy that we're buying, and they're not taking care of the planet the way we would take care of the planet with it. So this is our last break for this podcast. We're gonna take a break. and then I'll come back and kind of give you the wrap up on what's going on. Again, follow, like, and share us. Comment if you want to be a part of the podcast. You can comment on whatever site you're listening to this on live. If you're on the podcast and you want to be part of the podcast, shoot me an email at whyimangrypodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get your comments, get your words of wisdom, all that kind of stuff in, and all of that. So get in on that, and we'd like to see you there. You have $89. All right, guys, getting back from this break. Took a little extra half a second. Got some information from my wife here, and just was trying to get some more information going. So just a kind of an overall. This is how it felt. This is how it was. Like I said in the beginning, felt like it was there was an energy. There was an energy about the whole night, and it was and it felt positive. It felt like there was a pride to being, to being an American, to being to seeing him elected, to seeing all of that stuff. And I think that was part of the excitement of it, the extra energy, is that, it was very presidential. And I think we lost that. We don't, like, as a society, I don't think we understand what that means. Is that, there were things that George Washington did, with the parade, the different presidential things that he did, he established, that he didn't believe in them as he needed them to feel like a president, but he believed that they were necessary because we needed to show that kind of pomp and circumstance to the world. That we ran on an excellence level that was second to none. That no one could or no one needed to worry about that we were big enough to do these things. That when we got into the fray, that we were big enough to to have all of the things that any of the other big countries had at that time. And so I think that's honestly where we needed to be last night. Is we needed to reestablish ourselves as the dominance in great countries. We needed to show the opulence we could have. We had 3 inaugural balls because we couldn't fit enough people into one. We had too many people for it. And so we needed to do that. We needed to make, he sat down and signed executive orders while taking questions from the media. He did more media time in the 8 to 10 hours after his inauguration and the speech and everything than Biden did in the last 4 years in his entire presidency. And he didn't have somebody, he didn't look over and go, "Can I say that?" to anybody. He may have looked over and said something to somebody, like they were talking about the drones, and he said, "Let's get on that. Let's figure out what that is. Let's tell the people what it is." Um, and he things like that. But he didn't look over and say, "Can I say that?" Because he basically said during his inaugural speech, he listened to the advice and kept a few paragraphs and a few sentences out that he really wanted to say, mainly about the Biden family being pardoned, looking very suspiciously guilty. And, I mean, he pardoned his wife, Jill. I mean, like, if you don't want to be considered the Biden crime family, you just pardoned your whole family, including your uncle or your brother and your sons, your wife, pretty much anybody you knew and anyone you didn't know that maybe was connected to you. So, but it just, it needed to have that opulence that they had a crab cake, they had a steak, they had, that's their dinner, the actual meal and stuff was that opulence, and they went and danced and did their thing, and maybe that's so formal and outdated, but it shows the history, it shows the richness of the country, and it shows that we still follow a certain decorum to being a great country. And I don't think we see that as much as we used to. I think we've torn down statues of historical events and historical people, because we don't want to remember our history. And I think if we don't remember our history, we're doomed to repeat it. And I think we have repeated, in the last 4, or even the last, the 8 years before Trump's first, we've dropped back to repeating a lot of these civil rights issues that we were so close to eradicating in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know that I guess because I grew up in it, I didn't realize how united, how amazing, how close we were at that time, you know, to being this great, just, non-racial country. And yes, there were still problems, but the problems weren't systematic. There wasn't a system of racism at that point. It was people. There was a group here and somebody there, this guy over there, and most of those people were persecuted by people who were against racism. And so we were on our way of pushing those people out. But I feel like, and this may be an overreaching statement, I may someday have to retract this statement because of over, just being too much. But it feels like the Democratic Party saw that they could control people by instilling fear, by and that this was a way that they could instill fear, is that because a certain group of people is a different color, or there's so many more of them, that you create fear in those people. And honestly, it's a Bugs lifestyle movie going on right now, is that, oh, we can't do that, or the others will crush us because, you know, but there's more of the ants. And just because they're different, just because the others are bigger, or they're stronger, or whatever, it doesn't, we should all actually live equally. And the way we live equally is we take away the privilege of anyone. This is, you've got a level playing field, and you use your level playing field to the best of your ability to make whatever you can out of it. And obviously, you know, it's not everybody gets the same $1 million or the same amount of financial stability. But at least you have, at least if it's fair and uncontrolled, at least you have the same amount of promise, of ability to raise your circumstance. And I've honestly felt over the last 12 or 16 years that, that chance to raise your circumstance, to raise your social status, is been gone. Maybe it is gone. Maybe there is no ability to take yourself from the middle class to the upper class, to the lower class, to the middle class, to, maybe that's the case. But I still think that there's some level of that in the country. Elon Musk didn't come from, something bigger than, he didn't come from the a family of billionaires. And neither did, Zuckerberg. He made billions. He made millions and billions. You know, Bill Gates didn't, he started out in a garage, and maybe they had opportunities that others didn't have because of intelligence, or maybe they had opportunities the others didn't have because their parents, lifted them up or something. But, I think this is still a great country. I think that we still have to watch what is going on, and watch that we're not, blindsided by that we're not blindsided by, biblical prophecy. But I think that, the next 4 years have a very, at least economically and security wise, have a very positive look to them. And as the conspiracy theorist inside of me is shouting, look for, look around the mirrors, look through the smoke. But I hope that side of me is wrong. So again, I love you guys. Great to be back podcasting with you guys. Great to be back in the studio, giving you my opinions and things, and all of that. Follow, like, and share us. Get on there. Get to this link down in the comments. and you'll start to get my daily, my daytime, morning time updates, and just be about like 15-20 minutes, and we're going to start with some more overreaching, a bigger format. I've got some ideas on some sports stuff and all kinds of stuff like that. So make sure that you're supporting the podcast in any way that you can. We love you guys. We appreciate all that you can do, all that you've done for us, and we hope that we're giving back to you guys in equal measure.
Remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcasts. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.